Number 4 is second reading on the revisions to Chapter 54 of the Municipal Code relating to council members and city staff's ability to work on city projects. There are now limitations on what a council member or city staff can and can't do regarding working on city projects, as well as when the city council must approve the contract. Essentially what the draft ordinance says is that for contracts of $1,500 or greater, if that contract is by a company or individual, or a company that has an ownership interest by a council member or city staff member, that contract can no longer be approved by the city manager, but instead has to be approved by the city council. If it's less than $1,500, then the city manager can authorize that expense unless 3 or more council members wish it to be an action that they want to take. In that case, then it cannot authorize the expense, and have to go to the city council meeting for approval. At the last meeting, in addition, they further amended this ordinance to reduce the city manager's spending authority from $20,000 to $10,000. This ordinance, as drafted, now has that reduced spending authority within it. I've noted in the summary here, as well as in the background materials when you get a chance to look at it, while I respect and will follow through on the council's wishes with regard to the reduction of my spending authority, I don't believe they fully realize the extent at which doing so will impact city operations. As I note here, the city council may not be aware of the many routine items that are currently approved by the manager or his designee, that in the future will now require city council action at a regularly scheduled meeting or at a special meeting that would be held for the sole purpose of authorizing that single expense. For example, and you can read this in the background materials, we purchase gasoline and diesel fuel to fill the tanks at the street department, and that is used by obviously our snow plows, street trucks, ambulances, fire trucks, squad cars. And when we fill those, we do it on a just-in-time basis, a couple of days in advance of when the need is there. And those expenses on an individual basis range around $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 per fill-up. That's the type of routine expense that the council now will be involved with. There's other examples. And because of the just-in-time nature, that expense would have to be done at likely especially held city council. I also note that a large portion of government operations are handled on a daily basis and are taken care of expeditiously and professionally by staff and its managers. The city council will be taking on management functions in addition to its governance functions if they pass this ordinance as amended, as the council will now become more involved in the day-to-day operations of the city. I think that gets to the very heart of the city manager form of government, and that's why I would urge the council to reconsider their position on this matter.
So, for example, using like the fuel purchases, about how often are those purchases made? So, how would that?
In the fiscal year 09, 16 times.
Okay.
Is that about right, Rick? If I recall, about 16 times.
Would that require special meetings monthly to do routine purchases like that?
Right. We'll have to gauge how empty the tank is, estimate how many gallons it will take to fill it up, call our suppliers like we do now, which, by the way, is a matter of course. Our street operations superintendent, in advance of the fill-up, will call 3 vendors, ask for prices. You're the cheapest, fill me up tomorrow. That action would have to be delayed at least 48 hours so we can hold a special meeting. And that, that can be problematic, like a snowstorm. We really drain those tanks, and we have to wait 48 hours before we can fill it. Meanwhile, the squads are still walking, cruising the streets. So I don't want to belabor the point. My point, well, I'll just say that this action will impact, I believe, significantly. I received direction from the mayor and 2 other council members to place on this agenda 2 separate resolutions that would impose a fine upon Alderman Victor Rogan due due to his absence at the November 9th meeting and November 23rd meeting. The ordinance reads that the council can fine the alderman 1/24th of his or her current compensation, which in this case represents $250. And we need to do two separate actions for the two separate meetings.
So that would be $250 per occasion.
And the council can do so if they conclude there was not a good and sufficient cause leading to that alderman's absence. That would be for the council to judge whether that did or did not exist.
And does Alderman Wogan have to be present at the meeting to give a cause, or can they decide if...
He does not have to be there. He certainly can.
Okay.
The reason why we had to split this into two is the code says that only aldermen that were present at the meeting where the alderman was absent can vote on it. So the second of these two, Alderman Simpson, happened to be absent, so you cannot vote on the second one, you can vote on the first one. But all other council members can vote on it.
We say the other council members that requested that?
That would be placed on the agenda for consideration.
No, which?
Oh, I don't know. I rely on